Hey guys, in this video I want to share my day-to-day habits of a high-ticket closer. Okay, so I live my life a lot differently than most people in sales, and I would attribute almost all of my success from this year. I've doubled my income in sales. I've gotten way better shape. I was able to travel to 5 different countries. I was able to grow my personal brand. I was able to learn 2 languages. I was able to get shredded, single digit body fat. And all of it comes from my day-to-day habits. And so some people have been asking me, Ben, why don't you make a video on your habits, your routines, what you do? Because it's interesting to some people. So if that's you, if you want to know, I'm gonna break it all down in this video. Okay, so before I dive into that, make sure you subscribe, you like the video, comment below which one of these habits is interesting to you and which one would you like to change first. So this whole process for me of self-development started around 11 years ago now. So I'm 35. When I was 24, I really started focusing on the gym and then improving my social skills, getting better with talking to girls. And then I was going to school for engineering. So I was really studying, and then I was reading these books. Like I have this book behind me, Awaken the Giant Within. And it started to help, but it wasn't until last year that I actually kicked it up to another level. So what was I doing before? So I was moderately successful in sales, but my habits were a complete mess. And so what that meant was my performance would be up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. I was really inconsistent. And what that looked like in my personal life, I might make a whole bunch of money, but then I would go out and party. Or I would be constantly sleeping in to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, rolling out of bed, and then I'd have a sales call in half an hour. And I would be like, oh no, I gotta go talk to this person. And I would sabotage my success by going out and partying every weekend. So I realized when I was working for Cole Gordon, my best month in sales was in January. And being in Canada, if I were to show you outside what it looks like right now, we've got about a foot of snow, and that January was no different. We actually had a major snowstorm every weekend. So usually I would go out and party with my friends, go get drunk, but I realized a year later, almost a completely year later, that my best performance in that month generated $250,000 in new revenue for that company. My best performing month was because I didn't go out to drink. My habits around sales were dialed in, and I'll break those down what those were. And I was completely focused on the one goal of hitting 30 sales that month. Okay, before that, I hit my projections, but actually in December, it was my worst month, the only month I didn't hit my projections. And on that team, they really cemented into us the whole idea of say-do ratio. So your say-do ratio is something I still live by. I haven't worked on Cole's team since 2022, but say-do ratio is if I say I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. If I say I'm going to get 30 sales, I'm going to hit 30 sales. It's a philosophy for life. It's about raising your standards and just doing what you say. When you do what you say, that alone generates a sense of integrity within you. It's like you have a power. It's weird, but if you tell somebody this is going to happen, I'm going to do this, it creates a force. It's it's going to happen. It's already done because I do what I say. My say-do ratio is 1-to-1. So before that, my say-do ratio was I would say 10 things, do 1 of them, which is horrible, which is what most people do. Anyway, how does that tie into my habits now? I started off by fixing one thing. Okay, I didn't intend to become a robot, to go into monk mode or anything, but I realized, there's 2 main things which are making me feel like crap and which are affecting my performance. One of them was drinking. The other one was sleeping in. And for me, I've never been the type to wake up early. I would wake up at maybe 5 a.m. for a plane, or if I was okay, I'm gonna wake up early, I would wake up for 5 a.m. for a week straight, and then go right back to sleeping in until, sometimes lunch. because I was always up also gaming. I was always a big gamer. I played Call of Duty or whatever the game was. And I changed all that this year. So what did I do first? Number one, I call this my bedrock habit, because really the first thing that I did was wake up early. I chose to wake up at 5 a.m. Now, I wouldn't say you go and start off with all the habits that I do now, which I'll get into, but this one habit was super important for me. Why? Because when you wake up, if you just wake up at any time, let's say you sleep and you wake up at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever, most people are dreading their day. They're like, oh, I gotta wake up now. Oh, I'm so tired, I'm so sleepy. I realized shortly after doing this that when I say I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and I actually do it, I wake up and I'm like, wow, waking up is now a win. I'm starting my day off on a positive note. And this became a non-negotiable for me. Non-negotiable meaning like I'm not hitting snooze. I'm not going, oh, I don't feel like waking up today. No. Non-negotiable means I do it no matter what. I don't care what day it is. I don't care what happened yesterday. I don't care if I went out and partied until 4:59 and went back and fell asleep at 5. I'm getting up at 5. It's non-negotiable. So this is an attitude change I started creating within myself. The second one was alcohol. I started listening to Wes Watson, and he said, hey, whatever you regret, it's like God telling you that you need to eliminate this from your life. And I thought about it, and I started tracking down in my journal things that I regret from yesterday. And at the time, it was big things. The last time I drank alcohol, I made a video about this, I'll post it somewhere. It was November 10th or November 11th, Remembrance Day here in Canada. We went out and got drunk. I was driving around on a scooter and I crashed and I hurt my wrists. I made a video about this, it's going into the whole story, but the reason why I quit the next day, I wrote down this huge thing which I regret. I just felt so much regret from being an idiot and crashing and hurting my wrists. I actually went to the gym the next day and I did bench press and my wrists were like, oh, fuck, it hurt so much. So I just quit after that. And that alone had a massive impact on my performance, because to go back to that month on Cole's team in January, I didn't go out the entire month to go hang out with my friends. I was literally locked in. I was in work mode. And that month I just crushed. I just smashed my goal. So after I quit alcohol and I quit sleeping in, it started this positive upward trajectory. Right? I still had a lot of bad habits. I still did a whole bunch of stuff that I don't do now. So what are the next habits I did? Well, I started getting way more focused in the gym. I would wake up, go to the gym. I would be up hours before my first phone call, my first sales call. Whereas before, I would roll out of bed like half an hour before and I would be groggy and I'd be on the call and I'd be like my brain wouldn't turn on for like an hour. And my diet was completely trash. I've been going to the gym since I was 24, but I never tracked macros. I always thought that you could outwork a bad diet. And I hired this coach and he's like, no, you can't do that. So he's like, he forced me to track my macros. And I thought, well, like, what does macros have to do with mindset? But I realized that it was one of the most powerful things, because I started cutting. I thought I was in really great shape. I was actually 23% body fat. I was kind of like way skinny fat. Anyway, I cut from 212 all the way down to like 175. And the process of doing that by tracking my macros and just being disciplined with going to the gym, it initially started because, well, when I get up early and go to the gym, I feel better for my calls. When I feel better, I get a better outcome on my calls. And then I just kept pushing it to the next level. You know, I never intended to get like super shredded, but it was kind of I just set the goal of seeing, well, like, I wonder if I could get down to like single digit body fat, which I did. And so tracking the macros was the next thing I did, which made a massive impact on your mindset, because when you're hungry all the time, it's hard to describe unless you've done this, but there'll be days where you just like, all you can think of is like, oh my God, I just like want to get food that you would never crave before. Like almost like a pregnant chick. Like they have these random cravings for like dill pickles or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, like just thinking of this random breakfast sandwich that this cafe place sells down the road. I thought about this breakfast sandwich for like 4 months. And you might be hearing this thinking like, Ben, that sounds horrible. Like, why would you ever do this to yourself? Like there's a certain power you get when you restrain yourself. You're like, oh, I want to go do this, but you're, no, it's not in line with my vision. It's not in line with my purpose. So when I started cutting back these things that I regret, this is the other thing. I started focusing more on, it's like I was tapped into more of my own purpose. And so when you get that clarity, anything that takes you off track of your own purpose, of that vision for yourself, it's painful. So the things that I used to do, like play Xbox and watch Netflix and you name it, all this like random stuff that people use to entertain themselves, it started feeling more painful than doing the things that were moving me towards my vision. So I really sat down last year and I thought, what do I really want for my life? Because a lot of people talk about vision, but they don't really know what that means. Or they know what it means on paper, but they never really thought about, what do I want for my life? And so I started thinking, what are some things that I could do every single day to move me closer to this vision I have in my life 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30, 40, 50, like how do I want my life to look from now until the day I die, which is hopefully in 30, 40, 50 years. But either way, if I just do these things which move me closer to my vision every single day, there's literally no chance I won't get there. But if I do these other things which are not on track with that purpose, with that vision, I'm just going to have this life of drifting around, kind of going from one thing to the next, which is literally how I spent my first 34 years of being alive. And so this is one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. They'll look at you from the outside and say, oh, well, like that must not be very fun, blah, 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 blah. They'll just talk and say, like, well, why don't you, like eat this pizza or something? Like, why don't you go out for a beer? Like, give yourself a break. And they don't understand that when you make it so these things that you used to do are painful and the things that lead you towards your vision are pleasurable, you don't want to do that stuff. That's like the hack for discipline. Like I don't even consider myself disciplined. So what does my life look like right now? I wake up at 2:40 a.m. every single day, do 100 burpees in one set. I do, I still track my macros. I'm bulking up now, if you must know. I've been learning Spanish since I went to Colombia. Before that, I was learning Italian for the past 6 months because my ex-girlfriend was Italian. Anyway, we broke up and I went to Colombia and I was like, oh, maybe I should be learning Spanish instead. So that's why I learned that. What else have I been doing? Been reading, been journaling, been making content every single day. So I thought, hey, if I just do something to build my personal brand every single day, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, there's no way I won't have a massive audience. I won't have like this asset. I won't have this skill set that is super, super valuable, right? If you think about it, if you're a closer or a business owner, like your personal brand is something that can never really be taken away from you. And it's only a benefit for you. Like if you're a closer, one day you might want to sell your own thing. One day you might want to get on a new offer. And if you have a huge network because you've been putting value out there, you've been sharing what's working for you, you've just been consistent. Just the act of being consistent, you take 2 salespeople. Imagine you're going to get a new job. 2 salespeople. You have a year or 2 years of content created and people can see that. That's like your resume to the world. Versus another person who might be just as good as you, who has done no personal branding. Who would they hire? Who shows more consistency? Well, guess what? They're going to hire you like 10 out of 10 times. It's not even a question. Like that's how I got on some of the biggest sales teams that I've been on. I've been on a lot of big sales teams. Right now, I'm selling for Rudy Maurer. Again, I made videos going into this, so it's not super important. But these are the things I do every single day. I do not miss. I created the habit and the character trait of not missing. I'm like, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Something that I learned from Cole Gordonstein, which I'll forever be grateful for, is that say-do ratio. It's so, so important. Okay. So, wake up early, stopping drinking, smoking weed, doing mushrooms or whatever the hell I was doing, playing Xbox and like watching Netflix, wasting time, and creating content every single day. This is one thing when I ran my business, I would create content and be consistent for maybe 3 or 4 days, and then I would make a bunch of money and I would go party. Right? I go party, and then I wouldn't make content again for like a week. It drove Ryan, my old business partner, just absolutely nuts. He's like, dude, like you're not consistent. And so consistency was actually one of my biggest flaws, and now it's one of my biggest strengths, which alone creates so much confidence within you. Because when you know that you do everything that you say to yourself that you're going to do, that creates a massive track record for yourself. You're like, of course, I'm going to do it. The other piece is travel. So this year I've been to Poland, Costa Rica, Colombia. I've been to Dubai. I was in Austin. You might be like, oh, who cares about Austin? But all these places I went to by myself. And I've never been the type to travel alone. This is the first year I've done it. So it's kind of like a lot of like getting out of my comfort zone this year. And I was able to do that because I've literally doubled my income from coaching, from the personal brand, from getting better at sales, more consistent. You know, what used to happen for me was I'd make a bunch of money and I'd go off and party. Now, if I make a bunch of money or if I lose a bunch of money, I don't care. I do not break in my habits because I know that these are like the foundational pieces which allow me to show up to my sales, to my coaching, to my content, consistent and like at the same high level of energy. Also, I haven't been sick in the past year, which is interesting. But when it comes to the travel, yeah, like I was supposed to go to Poland in May with Ryan and JK, the guys I used to work with. And at the last minute, they pulled out of the trip and I was in the airport. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going by myself. So I was like, oh, fuck. And it was this big kind of like scary thing for me to travel alone for some reason. I always wanted to go with other people. And then when I went to Poland, it's like, oh, this isn't even that bad. Where else could I go? And then I ended up going to Colombia, and the rest is history. The biggest thing is just eliminating the bad habits. And if I can impart one thing to you, it's figuring out what are the things that I'm doing right now which are causing me to regret. So regret is like a compass. Like the things that you regret, you got to cut them out of your life. And for me, I started tracking these every single day. Like, what do I regret from yesterday? And it started off with really big things. Oh, I went and drank and got shit-faced. I spent a whole bunch of money. Oh, I said something really stupid to this person. I felt bad after. Oh, it was, I didn't say this on a sales call when I knew I should have, right? I didn't call them out or challenge them here, and then they didn't buy. And I know I could have helped them, right? And it started going from really big things to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller things. And then eventually it got to the point where I would go full days, weeks on end, having zero regrets. And when you have zero regrets, that's when I noticed that my life started accelerating and more things started happening and more people started reaching out to me and I started making more money. And it's hard to directly say it's because, oh, I didn't regret anything. But when all of your actions are in alignment with your purpose, if you're doing everything right, that alone moves you forward faster. And really, when you regret something, it just means that you're off your purpose. And so it's kind of like a compass that keeps you pointing towards your North Star, which is whatever you want for your life. Maybe you want to become a millionaire. Maybe you want to just make enough money to take your family on trips. I don't know. Whatever your guiding purpose is, just being aware of that alone will change your life. What are some things that helped? Just some mindset tips and tricks. For stopping drinking, I literally just changed the definition and the meaning that I had for drinking. It used to be this fun thing, something I would do to reward myself. And then I said, oh, it's actually negative. It's not a reward, it's actually a punishment. Why would I build up all this momentum only to crush it through drinking? So changing the definition really helped. It's like, you know what? I don't even think men should be drinking. It's not cool. It's lame. When you get to like my age, like when does the party end? It's fucking stupid. So that was it. That's all I had to do. It was just one decision. And I never even thought of drinking again. Even in Poland and Colombia and all these places where it's so cheap to drink. Anyway, the next one was waking up. I just realized if I wake up earlier, I feel better. Go figure. And I get more done. And by the time I get on my calls, I'm fresh. I'm like ready. Now I get up at 2:40, which is nuts. I just kept pushing it further and further back, like from 5 to 4:30 to 4 a.m. to 3 to 2:40. And it's almost like you get more time in the day. Like I almost live like 2 days in one now, or 3, it seems like, because I go to bed at like 7, 8 o'clock, but I've done so much throughout the day and I don't waste any time because I'm not screwing around doing the old stuff I used to do, distracting myself. I just get so much more done than the average person. So, and that alone feels good. Like knowing that you've done as much as you could in a single day, so that when you hit the bed, as soon as your head hits the pillow, you're just like out. Like I don't have trouble sleeping anymore, which is interesting because I used to toss and turn and I just couldn't sleep. I've not had a single issue sleeping in the past year. So that alone is huge for me. The other thing is like the diet. Well, I always thought that you could outwork a bad diet. The coach had to beat it into me that no, you can't. And then I realized through the process of tracking my macros and cutting down and right, at a certain point I was eating like 1,400 calories a day, which is really low. And the focus it takes and the discipline to not go and just eat everything you see takes so much constraint that I literally feel when you're restraining yourself from the things that you want to do and you're staying focused on your vision and your purpose, that alone gives you a sort of power, right? And people can feel that from you. They're like, wow, like something's different about you, Ben. Like a lot of people have said that, like, whoa, like, yeah, you look different, but you, like, there's like a different energy when I talk to you. And that's just like a byproduct of being disciplined, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like a woo-woo spiritual thing. But anyway, what else? Those are the big ones. Just that and just making sure that you're aligned with your purpose, your vision, and that you're not getting veered off of that from these little distractions. If you can just do those 4 things, that alone will massively increase your consistency in your sales and in your business. Some other habits, if you want to get better at sales specifically, in the morning, I would listen to a call that closed, really to remind myself of the energy and how I was coming across on the call, and like listening to my best calls over and over again before my first sales call. It got me back into that closer state of mind. And after my calls, going and reviewing a call that didn't close, like my worst call, that alone keeps my skills really sharp. There's probably more to it. Just making sure that you're eating consistently throughout the day. I know when I was working on Cole's team, sometimes I would not eat until 4 p.m., like at all. And then I just got way skinny fat. So by spreading out my meal, by tracking what I ate and spreading out my meals, I have like 5 meals a day, and I basically spread them out macro-wise, like evenly, just divide them all by 5. That gave me consistent energy throughout the day. So one thing that I'm big on now is just energy in general. So having the energy to stay focused for a long time, having good energy when you show up to talk to people, all this stuff plays a big part into sales. And it's really the core foundation of my entire disciplines, my habits, my philosophy. So hopefully this helped. I don't have a lot more to share with you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below or DM me on Instagram, Ben W. Byrne. And if you like this, I'm going to be dropping more insights into my personal development routines in my new community I'm creating called the Cash Collectors. Most of it is about sales and making more money, but I'm going to have a piece in there all about personal development and mindset and the things that I'm doing to move my life forward in that area. Okay, so if you like this, again, hit subscribe. Let me know down below which one is most impactful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching.